everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. A new phase for you, na? So I'll be taking F6 for you. Okay. So I think few of them have to join. Okay, but then we'll start and then when they come in, we'll introduce them. Okay. So first of all, I'll just introduce myself. Okay. So I'm Jyotika Ramdas and I'm an ECC affiliate from Kerala. So basically, I'm a Malayali. Any Malayalis over here? No Malayalis? Okay, so I assume no Malayalis. Okay, so yeah, so I'll be dealing with F6 taxation for you. So the thing is that I would like the class to be an interactive session, okay? Because we will be, I hope, like, I think no one is planning to come for the offline class, isn't it? Everyone's online. So we need to be much more interactive, because I like it to be a two-way dialogue, not a monologue. Okay. So yeah. So a little bit more response I expect from you guys. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Fine. So I'll start with an introduction about the F6 paper. All right. So what do you know about this F6 paper? Taxation, UK tax. What do you know about it? Okay, so basically it is UK tax. Okay, we all know what tax is. Even in India, we have GST and we have many other type of tax as well. Income tax, we have company tax. Okay, so basically the tax system within UK, that is what we are going to deal with in F6 paper. Okay, so after F6, we have an advanced optional paper in taxation, that is ATX. And if you plan to take that as an optional paper, then you do have one with regard to taxation. All right, so this paper you are going to have section A, section B and section C. Section A is going to be MCQ and section B is going to be MTQ. You'll be given a scenario and you'll be given 5 MCQ with regard to that scenario. All right, and afterwards you will have the constructed response area. Is that clear? So section A, section B and section C. Okay, so the way that I will be carrying on the lecture would be I'll be taking the concept areas and along with that we'll be practicing all the questions. Okay, be it so I'm focusing on the Kaplan material, so be it illustrations, test your understanding, whatever it is, we will be discussing that in the class. I'll be giving you homeworks. Okay, so we will be doing it together. Okay, so by the end of this particular class, that not today, okay, the entire class, you would have completed around 85 to 90% of your Kaplan material questions. Okay, and then you have to do your part also. I'll be helping you to do questions and I'll clear out the concepts and we'll discuss questions in the class. But then when I give you homework, it's up to you. No, it is for yourself. You have to do it with integrity. Okay, you have to do it for yourself. Fine. Okay. All right, so if at all you have any doubts when we carry out the concepts, you can, like, I'll take a break in between after every concept and I'll ask you whether you have any doubts. So then and there, please clear all your doubts. Okay, because don't keep it for like tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. That day itself, just clear it and move forward. Okay, because you know that when it comes to UK tax, fine, we have many rules, many regulations, and there are many guidelines that we have to learn. So if you don't make it clear then and there, it might, become a burden for you later. All right. So I'll start with an introduction about which and all chapters we are going to deal with in this particular F6 syllabus. Okay. So first of all, it's going to be a small introductory chapter because we are dealing with UK tax. We need to know what the UK tax system is. All right. So we need to know what the tax authority is. There is something called as HMRC. Okay. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. So HMRC is basically what deals with tax in the UK. So what is the system? What are the different type of taxes levied from individuals and from companies in UK? All those introductory things we are going to learn in chapter 1. Is that clear? Chapter 2 is wherein we are actually going to start with computations. All right. One very, very, very important part of your F6 is chapter 2. All right. Basic income tax computation, because when it comes to individuals, they have different sources of income and they have to calculate the tax that they have to pay on this particular income. So that entire introduction is given in chapter 2. Okay, and after that the remaining up to 9 chapters. Okay, up to 9 chapters from 3 to 9, it is going to be a part of chapter 2. All right, so in chapter 2 we'll be learning an entire pro forma, how you calculate an income tax liability as well as taxable income. But then within this pro forma you have many components. You have trading income, you have property income, you have pension income. So all those single components you will have to deal with it separately. So that things are dealt with in the chapter 3 to 9. Okay, so it's going to be investment income. We have to learn that investment income can also be called as savings income. Then we have to learn about property income, because each and every source of income has got a particular basis of assessment. There are certain rules with regard to each of these components. So in the exam, you'll be given a lot of information from which you'll have to calculate property income assessable, investment income assessable, employment income, and all the other components, and finally put it into the pro forma that we will be discussing in chapter 2. All right, is that clear? Any idea? Okay, fine. After that, we'll have an isolated chapter, that is chapter 10, partnership, but that's a very, very easy chapter, because up until 9, if it's clear, chapter 10 is going to be very, very easy for you. All right, but then it's a very important chapter. Up until I think 3 sessions back, it was not that important, but then last time and all, we did get it in section C. Okay, partnership. So we'll be discussing that also. Then we'll be moving on to chapter 11. So you know that if we have a trading profit, we will also have a trading loss. Okay, so if you have to pay tax on your profits, and if you get a loss, then you might get a relief over there. Okay, you have a profit, you have to pay tax on that. So if you have a loss, you will get relief from the tax authority. So what and all are the trading loss reliefs that are available to individuals? We have different types of relief: carry backward, carry forward, and set it off against capital gains. All those reliefs we'll be discussing in chapter 11. All right. Then we have chapter 12, just like tax payment, it's a mandatory payments within UK, that is national insurance contribution. All right. So national insurance contribution, what is class 2, what is class 4, what is class 1, 1A, all those things we'll be discussing in chapter 12. All right. That's also important. Like, you can't say this chapter is not important, this is important, because all the chapters are interrelated with each other and they are very important. Okay. So yeah. Then chapter 13, that's with regard to the administration part. Okay, when should we pay the tax? When should we file the return? Okay, if at all we have become late in filing return, then what is the penalty? What is the interest charge you'll have to pay? At what rate of interest you'll have to pay a charge? All those administration related part is what we are going to discuss in chapter 13. And it's with regard to individuals. All right. After that chapter, we are done with the income part of individuals. Okay, assessing the income of individuals to UK tax. Fine. Then we move on to companies. We are going to deal with individual related taxation as well as company related taxation. All right. So we'll have an introduction, just like we had an introduction for individuals. We'll have an introduction to company tax as well. So whatever tax companies pay, it is called as corporation tax. Okay. So we'll be looking into that. A slight outline and introduction will be there. Then we will move to a very important part of corporation tax computation called as taxable total profits. Okay. So it is called as TTP, taxable total profit. Fine. Then we will be looking into the losses which companies face. Okay, just like individuals, even companies might face losses. And if at all they face loss, they get many different methods in which they can relieve these losses. So what are those methods? They have carry forward. So there are different kind of methods which we will be discussing in chapter 16. Okay. Then chapter 17 is related to companies, but it is group of companies. Group means that we have a parent company. Okay. So they have acquired around maybe 90% of the shares of another company. All right. And then here it might be 100% of shares of C company, which means A company is the parent company and B and C company is called as a subsidiary company, and they form a group. All right. So if you are part of a group, you've got certain tax related implications. Certain benefits are also there. Certain disadvantages are also there. All that we'll be discussing in chapter 17. Okay, then chapter 18, just like for individuals, we have administration part for companies as well. When are they supposed to pay tax? When are they supposed to file the return? And if at all they have to make any inquiries or, any kind of claims, by when should they make that? All those administration dates related part we'll be discussing in chapter 8. All right. Then we have gains. Okay, when it comes to chargeable gains, we know that when you sell an asset, you might earn a gain from that. You will have to pay tax on that. Okay, be it companies or be it individuals. So that gain computation as well as what is a capital gains tax payable is what we will be discussing in chapter 19. Okay. Then when it comes to computing your gains, there are certain special rules also which you need to identify. That is in chapter 20. So chapter 21 is related to capital gain itself, but it's specifically for individuals. Okay, 21 and 22 specifically for individuals. And this is a situation wherein individuals own shares and securities, which is an investment. They sell that. Okay, when they sell that, it is like they're selling an asset and getting a gain from that. All right, so they have to pay tax on that. We have to calculate the capital gains tax payable. So when it comes to shares and securities, we've got special rules for that. Okay, certain methods are there which you need to learn, and that is in chapter 21. Okay. Then chapter 22, just like trading laws, even when it comes to capital, capital kind of sale, you might incur loss also. You can have a gain, but at times you might incur a loss also. So just like you have to pay capital gains tax on the gains, you get reliefs for your losses. Okay, so those reliefs which and all are available for us, all that we'll be discussing in chapter 22. Okay. Then we come to the chargeable gains part of companies. Just like individuals sell capital assets and earn a gain, or maybe they incur a loss, just like that even companies sell their assets. Okay, and if companies sell their assets and if they get a gain, they'll have to pay corporation tax on that. Okay, so that is what we'll be discussing in chapter 23. Then chapter 24 is an important chapter. Okay, it is related to inheritance tax. It's not related to the previous chapters that we learned, but then it's an isolated chapter, but still very, very important. All right. Then chapter 25, 26 are small chapters, okay, with regard to value added tax. So it's not very complicated and all. It's very simple, very straightforward. All right. You might know what VAT is, isn't it? Here we have GST and all. Okay, similarly, there in UK, we have VAT known as value added tax. Fine. If you're a customer, you go to a theater to watch a movie. Okay, along with the price of the ticket, you will be, you will also incur a VAT percentage over there. Okay, a certain percentage of the price would be added as a tax. Okay, and you will have to make that particular payment. Just like GST over here. Here we have CGST, SGST. You might have come across all these figures, right? If you get an invoice and all, if you see, we will have the price, okay, the net price, and then you'll have CGST, a particular percentage, SGST, and everything combined, you'll have the final price that you have to pay. Have you come across such a situation wherein you look into an invoice and you see that there is a net price and all these GSTs added, and then you get the gross price which you have to pay? Have you come across such a situation? I'm pretty sure everyone would have come across such a situation for sure. Have you? Ashwin?
Yes, ma'am.
You've seen, right? When you get invoice and all, there is SGST, CGST in it.
Yes, there are
Have you
different
noticed?
types of taxes.
Huh?
There are different types of taxes on the same.
Yes, exactly. So everyone might have come across such a situation. So that is VAT. In UK, we have value added tax. Same concept. All right. So that is what we'll be discussing in 25 and 26. So when it comes to 25, it's going to be just an outline. But when it comes to 26, we are clearly going to look into the administration part and any overseas related implications when it comes to value added tax. So that is the syllabus summary. These are the chapters that we are going to learn. So the entire F6 syllabus is spread across 26 chapters. All right. So is that clear? Is the syllabus area clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Fine. So now let's move into chapter 1. Fine. So I told you that this chapter 1 is about, introduction about what UK tax system is. So who is the authority which oversees taxation system within UK, and what are the different type of taxes levied, and who is responsible to pay a tax. All these introductory things are what you're going to learn in this particular chapter. Okay. So first of all, I'll start with an introduction with about the chapter summary. Okay. First of all, we'll be looking into why do we need tax. Okay, what is the main purpose of taxation system within UK, or why is tax being levied from individuals and companies in the UK, or in fact any other country, okay, be it India or Russia, China. Why is tax being levied? Okay, that is the first thing that we'll be dealing with. What is the purpose? Then we will be looking into what UK's tax system is. So when you are learning F6, it is tax UK. All right, so that is why specifically we have to look into what UK's tax system is. Fine. So we'll be looking into what is the structure. So I told you HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, the most important authority, the most topmost authority who actually oversees the taxation system within UK. Okay. So we'll be looking into what is the structure, what are the different levels when it comes to authorities, all those things. Fine. Then we'll be focusing on what are the different types of tax levied from individuals and from companies when it comes to United Kingdom. All right. So it can be broadly classified into direct tax and indirect tax. Okay. So we'll be looking into what is direct tax, what is indirect tax, what are the type of taxes that come under both these categories. All those things we will be discussing. Fine. Then under the UK tax system itself, we have a professional and ethical framework. That is something which we will be discussing. Then there's a very important concept area that is frequently questioned with regard to tax avoidance versus tax evasion. All right. So two very important terms which is frequently questioned in your MCQ, MTQ areas. All right. So the thing is that you might feel both these terms can be used interchangeably, avoidance, evasion, but there is a very clear distinction between these two terms. All right. Both involve minimizing your tax liability, but then one is legal and the other one is illegal. Okay. So clear distinction you have to understand about that. Then dealing with HMRC. All right. So here we have to look into how an individual or a company deals with the HMRC. How do they communicate with the HMRC? All those things we'll be dealing under this particular concept. Then we have a concept related to interaction of UK and overseas tax. Okay, because you know that if you are a UK resident, you have to pay UK tax. But then if you are getting income from maybe India or you're getting income from USA, sometimes you will have to pay tax on that as well. Okay, and at times you have to pay tax in UK as well as in US, okay, from where you're actually generating that income. So that is not really fair to the taxpayer, and that is why we have certain double taxation agreements between countries, and that's what we will discuss in interaction of UK as well as overseas tax. All right. Then we'll be looking into what are the different sources of tax law. So within UK, tax system is a highly regulated area. All right. So there are different sources from which legislation or law related to tax arises. Okay. Guidelines, regulations related to taxation arises. So here you can see that one is legislation. Okay. One from the statute means that legislation. So as a part of, legally developing the guidelines, legally developing the standards, regulations, based on that, tax law will be generated or developed. Okay. Then we have HMRC's guidance. We'll be looking into what HMRC guidance is, because being the tax authority, they actually provide certain guidance when it comes to carrying out the taxation activities within UK. All right. Then we have something called as case law. That concept we'll be discussing when we go to that area. Okay. So this is the chapter summary when it comes to the first chapter. Any doubts? All right, fine. So let's start the purpose of taxation. Fine. So what do you think? Why do we need taxation? Okay, Grishma, no issues. Why do we need taxation? You know that government, be it in India or be it in UK, the tax authorities or the government will levy tax from the individuals as well as from companies. Why do you think they do that? Any ideas?
Source of revenue.
Yes, they need a source of revenue. But why do they need revenue? The government or the tax authority, why do they need revenue?
For public expenditure.
Very good. Because government means they have to look after the people. Okay, that is why they have to look after the economy. So for doing that, they get involved in public spending. Okay, they provide public facilities to the general economy, the citizens, the people. So for that, they definitely need an income, isn't it? And that's how they get taxation. All right, they levy tax from individuals and companies, and that is the income that they use in order to provide facilities to the public. All right, so any other reasons? So one, we have this economic reason, okay, you could say. Then imports, okay, maybe, yeah, regulating the economy. Okay, because the government doesn't want a lot of imports to take place or a lot of exports to take place. So in order to regulate that, they'll increase or decrease the duty, customs duty, or any kind of taxation levied with regard to exporting and importing. Yes.
People even import some of the essential products.
Yeah. Customs duty. So basically, how the government wants or the tax authority wants the economy to move forward. Accordingly, they'll actually try and fluctuate the tax rates and all. All right, that is that. Anything else? Anything related to, ensuring that we don't have very rich people and very poor people in the society? Yes, redistribution of wealth. All right. Because we have very rich people and we might have poor people. So higher amount of tax would be levied from these rich people. Okay. So in order to ensure that this extreme situation doesn't happen in the society, they actually levy more tax from the rich people and use that for increasing the standard of living of the poor people. So redistribution of wealth within the society or within the economy. Yes, a very good reason. All right. Anything else with regard to, government wanting to regulate the behavior of individuals? Alcohol, smoking, do you think so? They do, right? They charge a high amount of tax when it comes to cigarettes or any alcohol products. This is because they want to actually demotivate the public from using all these products, okay? Because it's not good for health. Smoking kills, we all know that. So that is why, in order to reduce its consumption, high amount of tax is levied. All right. So these are the main reasons, or these are the main purposes why a tax is levied by the tax authority or by the government. All right. So we have an economic reason. The system of taxation and spending by the government has an impact on the economy of a country as a whole. We already saw that. Imports, exports, and they can increase the tax rate in order to ensure that, individuals, the demand is controlled. Fine, you can do that, because if the tax rate goes up, more amount of their income will go against a tax expense. Okay, so they'll be left with little amount of disposable income in order to spend for goods and services. So that through that way, the government can actually regulate the economy's demand. All right. So just like that, however, the government wants to shape the economy, they'll use this taxation and public spending for that purpose. All right. So taxation policies are used to influence many economic factors such as inflation, employment levels, and imports or exports. We already discussed this, isn't it? Now, they are also used to influence the behavior of business and individuals. I told you, if more amount of tax is levied, then individuals are left with less amount of disposable income to spend to purchase goods and services. So obviously, the demand in the economy would go down, especially in the situation of inflation and all. When the demand is too high, the government basically uses these methods in order to regulate the demand in the economy. All right, and in order to bring the inflation down. Is that clear? Okay. So basically in UK, we have a tax system. Okay, that's what we are learning in this entire F6 syllabus. So when it comes to UK's tax system, it encourages certain things and discourages certain things. All right, let's look into what are the main three aspects which they encourage. Fine. So first is individual saving habits by offering tax incentives on savings account, such as individual savings account. Okay, so you might all have accounts, isn't it? Bank accounts, don't you? Don't you have bank accounts? I'm pretty sure everyone has a bank account.
Yes.
Okay, so what is the type of account that you have? Is it a current account? Do you know about that? Is it a current account?
It's a savings account.
It's a savings account. Okay, so you know that all of us have invested in savings account. So any kind of investments or savings that we do, it is done in a savings account. So in order to encourage such saving habit within the public in UK, okay, in order to do that, they have given certain tax related incentives when it comes to investing in an individual savings account. You know that when you invest your money in the bank account, you get interest, isn't it? So basically that is savings income. But in UK, if you have invested in an individual savings account and you're getting interest income from that, you don't have to pay tax on the income. All right. So this is basically in order to improve the savings behavior when it comes to individuals within the UK. All right. So they encourage individual saving habits by offering tax incentives on savings accounts such as individual savings account, ISAs. Okay, ISA is a very, very important part when it comes to UK's tax system. Fine. Charitable donations. Basically, what happens is that if you make certain charitable donations, you are going to get a relief. You'll get relief in different ways, and we'll be discussing all that in further chapters. So the UK tax system is structured in such a way that if you make a charitable donation, you're going to get a relief over there with regard to your tax payment. So that is mainly to encourage such charitable donation activities. All right. Charitable donations by offering tax relief, example through gift aid. Fine. Entrepreneurs and investors by offering tax relief for investments in specified schemes. So when it comes to entrepreneurs as well as investors, when they invest in certain specified scheme, they'll get a tax relief. So that is also something which the UK tax system wants to encourage. All right. Now, discouraging motoring by imposing fuel duties, because you know that motoring means pollution. Okay, too many cars, which leads to pollution of the environment. That is why they want to reduce motoring. And that is why they impose certain fuel duties. All right. Here also we know, right? Petrol price is fluctuating really high. It's how much is the price now? 100, 102. What is the price now? What is the price now? 102. Yeah, somewhat around 100, 102. So all this is part of the taxation policy of the government. All right. Smoking and drinking alcohol by imposing significant taxes on cigarettes and alcoholic drinks. Okay, if you look into a cigarette packet, you can see that a very large percentage has been levied as tax. All right, especially in UK, that is something which takes place. Okay, this is mainly to ensure that, you know, what the government needs to do something from its own part in order to discourage use of any kind of alcoholic drinks or, you know, cigarettes. So that is why they're just doing their part by levying a higher amount of tax on those products, so that the price would be up and it would actually discourage the individuals from buying and consuming them. Okay. Then environmental pollution. To ensure that environmental pollution doesn't happen, we have landfill tax. All right. And there are many different type of taxes when it comes to the environmental aspect. Okay. In UK, you have tax with regard to carbon dioxide emissions of your car. All right. So if your carbon dioxide emission is less, you get tax benefits over there, or you have to pay a higher amount of tax. We'll be discussing all that. So basically, the tax system discourages environmental pollution by imposing a variety of taxes such as landfill tax, climate change levy, and linking carbon dioxide emission to the taxation of company cars. So linking this is something which we will be discussing in the employment income chapter and all right. So if you have an employee and he is using a company car, I'm very bad at drawing, okay? This looks like a car, I guess. So he's using a company car, which means he's getting a taxable benefit over there. All right. Now, how much of the benefit is taxable depends upon the carbon dioxide emission of the car. If the carbon dioxide emission is high, a high amount of tax would be levied on this company car benefit on this employee. All right. So that is with all to ensure that, you know, that there's a discouragement with regard to environmental pollution. That is the main reason. Is that clear? Any doubts? Any doubts? All right. So see, as government objectives change, taxation policies also get altered. I told you, if there is inflation, all right, when there is inflation, you know that the price of products would actually go up. Okay, because the demand is going up. Fine. Economics. So what the government does is that the government would increase the tax rate. So now what happens is that there are many individuals who are actually demanding this product, because of which the price of the product has gone one, creating an inflationary situation. So when more amount of tax is levied, these individuals' cash in hand goes down. Okay, cash in hand or cash in bank, whatever disposable income they have, which they can use to buy product and services, that would go down. So now they'll not be, motivated to go and demand for those product and services. So the demand would be under control, which would control the price as well. All right. So thus the inflation can be brought under control through the taxation policy. Is that clear? The vice versa happens when there is deflation. If the demand is too low, what the government does is that they'll reduce the tax rate so that the individuals have a higher amount of disposable income in order to demand product and services. Is that clear? So as the objectives change, the taxation policies as well as public spending policies are also altered. Is it clear? Is it clear? Second situation is social justice. All right. Social justice, I told you, redistribution of wealth. We have very rich people in the economy. Okay, maybe Shah Rukh Khan. Everyone knows SRK. Then we have very poor people also, like the people who live in slum area and all. In Bombay, we have very rich people, and that disparity is very, very significant when it comes to Bombay. All right. So we have people who live in slums. Okay, you know how they live, right, in those conditions. So the disparity or this particular difference is very, very wide in certain kind of areas within the economy. So what the government would do is that they'll charge a higher rate. Okay, SRK and all will be paying a higher rate of tax. Like if he's making a payment of tax, I don't know whether he's making. So any idea? Is he making a payment with regard to taxation? I don't know. You never know. Okay. So if he's paying, he'll be charged a high amount of tax because based on your income, the amount of tax, the percentage of tax levied will also go up. But when it comes to poor people, okay, let's consider very poor people, they don't even have to pay tax. But if it's a medium class, okay, if it's medium class people, they have to pay tax, but then they just have to pay tax at a lower rate when compared to aristocratic people. All right. So the government takes revenue from them and they do public spending. All right, in order to increase the public facilities given to the medium class poor people and to improve their standard of living. So basically, they're trying to bring down the very rich people and to increase the standard of living of the poor as well as medium class people. So they are just trying to redistribute the wealth in the economy. Is that clear? So next is social justice. We have already discussed that. The type of taxation structure imposed has a direct impact on the accumulation and redistribution of wealth within a company. You're accumulating this revenue, okay, from the rich people, and you're redistributing it within the economy in order to ensure that that disparity is reduced. All right. So we have different type of taxation when it comes to ensuring social justice. Fine. So first is we have progressive taxation. UK uses progressive taxation. All right. So up until £37,500, if you have, your income, your taxable income, you have to pay tax at the rate of 20%. Okay, but if you are a person having a taxable income between 37,500 and 150,000, you will be levied tax at the rate of 40%. Because if you're a richer person, then a higher amount of tax would be levied on the entire income. Like when it comes to these thresholds, if you are a higher income person, 40% and 20% would be charged. That is up until 37,500, 20% will be charged, and the remaining would fall in the second threshold, which means if you're a richer person, your higher income would be taxed at a higher tax rate. Is that clear? Is that clear? And after 150,000, we have 45%. So if you have an individual within UK who earns around, 1,65,000, out of this taxable income, 37,500 would be taxed at 20%. Okay, 112,500, that is between 37,500 and 150,000, it would be taxed at 40%. All right. And the excess amount out of 150, that is we have 15,000 extra out of 150, and that would be taxed at 45%. All right. So basically, as your income increases, the higher income is taxed at a higher tax rate. That is something which takes place in UK as well as in many of the countries. It's progressive taxation. All right. Is that clear?
Yes.
So when it comes to income tax and all, within UK, all the areas of taxation, it is progressive taxation. All right. So as income rises, the proportion of tax raised also rises. For example, 20% up to 37,500 of taxable income and 40% up to 150,000 of taxable income. After that, it is 45%. Okay. Income tax is an example of a progressive tax. So all these, like you'll be discussing a lot of different type of taxes. All those taxes are example of progressive taxation. Okay. This is especially relevant when it comes to individuals. All right. So regressive taxation. Regressive taxation is, I'll tell you an example. Okay. So suppose we buy a product. Okay. We buy a product and you have to pay a tax of £100 on that. All right. So we have two people. Okay. One is we have Ashwin and the other one we have Aditya. All right. Two people. So Aditya earns £10,000. All right. While Ashwin earns £1,000. Is it fine, Ashwin?
Yes.
Okay. So here if you see, both of them have to pay a tax of £100. Isn't it? So when Aditya pays £100, he is paying out of 10,000. But when Ashwin pays the same £100, he's paying out of 1,000 only. All right. So who has got a larger proportion of their income going towards this particular tax payment? If you calculate, you can see 100 by 10,000 into 100. So what is the answer? 1%. So Aditya's income, out of Aditya's income, 1% goes towards this particular tax payment. But when you consider Ashwin, it is 100 divided by 1,000 into 100. Then what does it become? 10%. So out of his income, Ashwin is making the tax payment with regard to 10%. All right. Out of total 100% income, 10% is going towards taxation. But when it comes to Aditya, only 1% is going towards taxation. So that is why this system is much more regressive over Ashwin, isn't it? It's a little bit, you can't say unfair, because when you're buying a product, both of them would buy the same product and they'll have to pay the same amount of tax. But when you consider it as a part of their income, it will be a higher proportion when it comes to a medium person, and it will be a lower proportion of the income when it comes to a rich person. So that is what you call as regressive taxation. Is it clear? All right. So as income rises, the proportion of tax paid falls. All right. So basically Ashwin has 1,000. So he's paying 10% as tax. But if his income goes up to 10,000, just like Aditya, he'll just have to pay 1%, okay, out of his total income. So basically, as the income rises, the proportion of tax paid is falling. That is the proportion of the total income. With regard to the tax payment, it actually falls. All right. For example, the tax on a liter of petrol is the same regardless of the level of the income of the purchaser. If I go and buy a liter of petrol, or if, let's say, Videshi goes and buys 1 liter of petrol, we'll have to pay the same amount of tax. Okay, but then our income would be different. So based on that, the proportion of our income will also fluctuate. All right. This is a regressive tax as it represents a greater proportion of income for a low income earner than a high income earner. So if you have a lot of income, it will be a very small proportion of your income. But if you are a low income earner, then it will be a larger proportion of your total income. That's why we call it as regressive taxation. Is it clear?
Yes.
Proportional taxation is, a particular percentage. No matter what your income, you are going to be charged 10%. Okay, so if it is Aditya, he has 10,000 and 10, right, Aditya? Right? Hello? Yeah, fine. Because you have, like, for both girls and boys, we have name, like Aditya name is used, isn't it? I guess I've had friends. All right. So when you consider Aditya's income 10,000, it is into 10%. All right. So out of 10,000, 10% goes towards tax. How much is 10% of 10,000? 1,000. Okay, 1000 goes towards tax. Now, when you consider Ashwin, he has got 1000 of income. Out of this, 10% goes towards tax. All right. So, what is 1000 into 10%? All right. So, the same proportion. If you are rich, 10%. Even if you are a middle class person, even then a 10% is charged on you. All right. So here, even if it's SRK or a very middle class bank employee or something like that, even then the same rate would be applied. It is not like progressive taxation. All right. So as income rises, the proportion of tax remains constant. For example, 10% of all your earnings, regardless of however rich you are. All right, whatever be your level of income. Ad valorem principle. Very good example is GST. All right. You buy a product. Tell me the example of a product. You buy a calculator. Okay. You buy a calculator which would cost you 10 pounds. All right. So let's say 10% is VAT. All right. Because the value of the calculator is 10 pounds. On that, 10% is a tax that is added. Okay. Which means 1. Isn't it? Isn't it? All right. So 10 plus 1 is 11. 11 is what you will have to make as a payment in order to buy the calculator. Because on this value, a particular amount of tax is added in order to figure out the total price. You will pay 11 pounds to the supplier, the shopkeeper. He'll keep 10 to himself because that is his selling price. And this one, he'll make this payment to the HMRC if it is in UK. He'll make the payment to the HMRC or the governmental authority, the tax authority, on behalf of us. Okay? Because on behalf of the customers, this particular amount of tax is paid to the HMRC by the vendor or the supplier. All right? So, are we directly making the payment to the HMRC? Like if you go and buy a calculator, you'll say like, okay, it costs me 10 pounds and then 1 is tax. Okay, total 11. Okay, bhaiya, I'll give you 10, 1 I'll give to HMRC. Is it like that? No, right? You go and give 11. Then you don't really worry about whether he is making the payment to HMRC or not. That is his headache. All right. So that is why it is considered to be an indirect tax. Okay. That's a very simple concept. You directly make the payment to HMRC, it is direct tax. If you indirectly pay through someone else, then you call it as indirect tax. Okay. Doesn't mean that instead of me going and making a payment, I ask Ashwin, please go and make my payment. That's not indirect tax. Okay. You're not worried about it. You have made the payment to the vendor and he actually makes the payment with regard to your taxation to the HMRC. All right. That is what you call as indirect taxation. Is that clear? All right. So a tax calculated as a percentage of the value of the item. So 10% of the value of the item is the VAT, value added tax. All right. So tax calculated as a percentage of the value of the item. For example, 20% VAT on most goods sold in the UK. So when it comes to UK, the VAT rate is 20%. So basically, we'll be discussing this particular VAT related aspects in the final 2 chapters. All right. So that is a rate that is usually applied in UK. So on the value, you add 20%. Okay, as a tax, as a VAT. And then you figure out what is the gross price and that is the payment that you have to make to the vendor or the supplier. All right. Is that clear? All right. So we dealt with 4 types of taxation in order to ensure social justice. We dealt with progressive taxation. We dealt with regressive taxation, proportional taxation, and ad valorem principle. All right. So any doubts with regard to that area? All right. So now let's look into different types of tax. Okay, what are the different types of tax that we actually levy within the UK tax system? Okay, so the UK tax system is administered by HMRC, that is a topmost taxation authority who oversees and monitors the UK tax system. So we call it as HMRC. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. All right. It comprises of a number of different taxes. There are different type of taxes which are being levied by HMRC within the UK tax system. First is income tax. All right. Income tax is a tax paid by individuals on their income. Okay, for example, Aditya has got employment income. He's an employed person. He's got employment income and he has got savings income also. He has deposited some amount in a bank, okay, in a savings account or in any such deposit account, and then he's getting income from that. So, as an individual or a resident within UK, he will have to pay tax on that. He'll have to pay tax on his income, and that's what you call as income tax. All right. So it's payable by individuals on some of their earnings, example, self-employment and employment, as well as investment income. You will have savings income, dividend income, pension income, employment income, property income, trading income. On all these income, you will have to pay a certain amount as tax. All right. National insurance contribution. National insurance contribution is also mandatory payment, just like taxation. Within UK, it's a mandatory payment. So here I don't think we have to make national insurance payment, isn't it? If we want, you can get into an insurance scheme and be a part of it. But then otherwise, in UK, it is a mandatory thing. Just like making a payment with regard to tax, you will also have to make contributions with regard to your national insurance. All right. So it is payable by individuals who are either employed or self-employed. So there are different classes of national insurance payment. When it comes to employed, we have class 1. Okay, when it comes to self-employed people, we have class 2 and class 4. So all those details with regard to what are the different classes when it comes to NIC payments, all that we'll be discussing in that chapter. All right. So it is payable by individuals who are either employed or self-employed on their earnings. Also payable by businesses in relation to their employees. So when it comes to the employees themselves, they'll have to make a payment to NIC. When it comes to businesses employing these employees, they'll also have to make a certain contribution to NIC on behalf of the employees. Is that clear? Is that clear? All right. Now, capital gains tax. I told you we have a capital asset. Okay, maybe we have a house. Okay, or a factory. Let's assume this is a factory. So the factory is sold, all right, and you get gain from that. You know how to calculate gain, right? You will have the sales proceeds, and from that, whatever initial cost you incurred, you have to subtract from that. You will get a gain. Sometimes it will be a loss, but then sometimes you might earn a gain over there. If you have earned a gain, you will have to pay tax on that. And that is what you call as capital gains tax. All right. So payable by individuals on the disposal of certain type of capital assets. Capital assets include land, buildings, shares, and securities. Can also include smaller items such as antiques. All right. Now we have inheritance tax. I told you it's an isolated topic. Inheritance tax is wherein, you have a relative of yours who passed away, and he might have wrote this will. Do you know what a will is? It's a document wherein he says that my house will go to my son. Okay, my estate will go to my daughter. Okay, and then there'll be like these assets are going to go to my nieces and nephews. So like that, he might have written a will. All right. So when these beneficiaries, they get this particular asset as an inheritance. Okay, they'll have to pay tax on that. Okay, so there are certain rules, many rules when it comes to inheritance tax, and in that chapter we'll be discussing. All right. So payable by executors on the value of the estate of a deceased person. Value of estate means, it doesn't mean the normal estate which you think about. All the assets together of that deceased person, you can call it as an estate. All right. So it is payable by the beneficiaries, or you can call the executors, on the value of the estate of a deceased person. Also payable in respect of certain gifts during an individual's lifetime. So like, let's assume this was the individual's life. All right. So here the person died. Okay, let's consider it as 30th of November. He died. So after his death, his estate would go to the beneficiaries according to the will that he has prepared. So they have to definitely pay tax on that. All right. Apart from this, okay, 7 years before he died, all right, any kind of lifetime gifts that the person has made, 7 years before his death, the beneficiary will have to pay tax on that. All right. So we have people over here, maybe son or daughter. So what happens is that some people, in order to ensure that they don't pay IHT on the death estate, they'll actually make this transfer during the lifetime. That is almost, they'll feel like they're going to die. I mean, I'm not being insensitive, but then almost when they feel that, okay, they've reached the end of their life, they'll actually try to make transfer to their son, daughters, and all, in order to ensure that they won't have to pay IHT after the death of this particular individual. So the HMRC came to know about it, and that is why they introduced this particular rule that IHT will have to be paid on certain lifetime gifts also. That is, in the lifetime when this particular person was alive, if he has made any transfer in the form of gift means he might have not got any returns with regard to that. So that is what we call as gift. So any transfers in terms of gift, if it has gone to, the beneficiaries, we will have to pay IHT on that. All right, so that is to ensure that such kind of manipulations doesn't take place, and to ensure that HMRC doesn't lose the revenue from IHT. All right, is that idea clear? Okay, also payable in respect of certain gifts during an individual's lifetime. Corporation tax. Okay, when it comes to companies, they pay tax on their profit, or let's call it as income, as well as their gains as corporation tax. When it comes to individuals, we have income tax and capital gains tax separately. When it comes to companies, both the gain related tax as well as income or profit related tax, they're combined to form the corporation tax. All right, so we don't have separate names for that. Both of these are combined under the term corporation tax. But for individuals, it's not like that. We have separate income tax computation. We have separate capital gains tax computation as well. All right. Now VAT, we know what VAT is, right? Payable on the supply of goods and services by the final consumer. So the final consumer is the person who actually, incurs this particular tax related expense, okay, which is called as value added tax. Is that clear? All right. So we'll just take direct and indirect taxation, then we'll go for a short break. Okay. So direct taxation, I told you. Okay. Directly you make the payment to the HMRC. Indirect is wherein someone else is taking the tax on our behalf and then making the payment to the HMRC. All right. We don't have to worry about whether the person made the payment or not. All right. So just like I told you, doesn't mean that I have to pay a tax to HMRC or I ask Ashwin to go and make the payment. That is not indirect taxation. All right. Indirect is wherein you have made the tax payment also to the vendor or the supplier, and then you're not worried about it. Whether he makes the payment to the HMRC or he doesn't make the payment, we are not worried about that. All right. So direct taxation, the taxpayer pays direct taxes directly to HMRC. Direct revenue taxes are based on income or profits, and the more that is earned or received, the more taxes paid. Examples include income tax, corporation tax. So all these are directly paid to the HMRC by the individuals as well as by companies within UK. All right. Direct capital taxes are based on the value of assets disposed of. So when it comes to capital gains tax, you can call it as capital taxes. Okay. So you basically call it as direct capital taxes. So direct capital taxes are based on the value of assets disposed of either through sale, gift, or inheritance. All right. Examples include capital gains tax and inheritance tax. When you inherit, you might inherit a house, or you might inherit a factory, or you might inherit a large asset of some kind. So that is why you'll have to pay inheritance tax on that. And since it's based on a particular asset, okay, that is why you can actually call it as a direct capital tax. If it's based on your income, you can call it as direct revenue tax. But if it's based on an asset, then you should call it as direct capital tax. Both revenue tax as well as capital tax together forms the direct taxation. Is that clear? So both these type of taxes are directly paid to the HMRC. Is it clear? All right. Indirect taxation. Indirect tax is collected from the taxpayer via an intermediary. Usually it is your vendor or the supplier of product and services. All right. Such as a retail shop. Fine. The intermediary then pays over the tax collected to HMRC. After you go and buy, few of the dresses, you'll have to pay tax on that. But then after coming home, after like maybe 1 or 2 days, are you worried that, oh, did the supplier actually make the payment to the HMRC? Will you be worried? You won't be, right? You make the payment and you're like completely ignorant about that. So whether the supplier makes the payment or HMRC to the HMRC or not, that is his own headache. All right. We don't worry about it. So that is what you call as indirect taxation. So here we have an intermediary who pays over the tax that is collected from the customer to the HMRC. All right. An example of an indirect tax is VAT. Here we have CGST, SGST. There we have value added tax. You make the payment to the supplier or the vendor, and he then makes the payment to the HMRC on our behalf. All right. So an example of an indirect tax is VAT. The consumer, the taxpayer pays VAT to the supplier or intermediary who then pays it to the HMRC. Is it clear? So we'll just go for a 10 minutes break. Okay. And then we'll come back, start with the structure of the UK tax system.